Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sanjana Gautam, a third-year PhD student at Penn State University. Today, I'll be talking about our paper, Exploring Feelings of Student Community Across a Geographically Distributed University. Before we begin, I would like to highlight what would be talking about in this presentation. We'd start with the background and also the motivation for the study, followed by the research questions, the study design, which details the survey and the interview study, the findings from our research, and the design implications. Starting with the background, one of the first things to understand is what are the challenges multi-site universities face. There is not an exhaustive literature on multi-site university. From what we could gather, major issues surround mismatched administrative and academic goals for regional versus main campuses, too much reliance on technological resources to establish similar resources across campuses, and supporting the social fabric of a highly distributed student community. The research in the last area is scarce. Moving forward, we define what are the sources of community among students. Before we start defining the sources of community, it is important to establish the definition of community that we would be using throughout this paper. Carroll and Rosson offer a conceptual definition of community that integrates community identity, which is derived from shared values, norms, experiences, including those involving shared places. Participation, which is behavior that demonstrates shared identity, including leadership and other collective behaviors that work towards community goals, and multiplex support networks. Members play multiple roles throughout and because of their participation in community activities. Now, coming back to the sources of community among students in a university environment, a major thing could be the shared locale. College student communities can be seen as a hybrid of geographic and online communities because part of the education, especially now during the pandemic, has been online. It seems quite likely that students may experience community in these different forms and possibly others across different situations. So how do we design for such a diverse student community? Our goal is finding others who are similar of the social matching that underpins the friendship formation. Our goal is to connect students from main and regional campuses. Students who change campuses were also a special concern to us, as they may not have access to a wide array of welcome activities that often help new admits meet other students and build new social networks. This brings us to what our research questions are. Our survey study is designed to answer the following two questions. How do my uni, in this case Penn State, students think about community, and how, if at all, does this vary across campus? And what variables in student behavior are related to the feelings of community? Following this, the interview study aims to answer the following two questions. What happens to students' feelings of community when they move from a regional to a main campus, henceforth known as RC and MC? What strategies do they use to cope with this transition? Here is a study design, beginning with the survey design. We designed a survey that focused on students' feelings of community with each other, but that also gathered other measures that might help to explain these feelings, as well as general information that was useful in describing the sample. The layout can be exemplified as general background, extra information from regional campus students, ratings of community, visits, clubs, and trivia. Discussing in more detail the survey design, we had an eligibility screener to screen participants' age and to see whether they qualified as an undergrad student. We only had undergrad participants for this study. The reason for the same is because undergrad students are the ones who actually transfer from regional campuses to main campus and have a more uniform curriculum throughout other regional campuses. Following which, there was a basic section about age, gender, ethnicity, year of study, student category, which was main campus, regional campus transfer students, and out of campus transfer students. Following this, there were questions regarding travel to main campus. This was just targeted to the regional campus students, which highlighted the frequency of visit experience at the main campus. Then followed the common sections, which were the sense of community, which is the BSAS scale, followed by the club activities. How frequently did they participate in the club activities? How many were the clubs that they were involved in? Followed with use of technology. How heavily were they dependent on social media to reach out to their community and friends, and the choice of social media platforms. At the very end, there were some My Uni trivia questions just to understand how well they know the university. Next, the interview design was as follows. It was a semi-structured interview protocol to allow for individualized and rich responses. In general, the questions were centered around three themes: the role of community in their student experiences making making the regional campus to main campus transition, and the role of technology in making that transition. How was the interview designed? The interview was organized into several sections. Grounding questions about the regional campus where they began their studies, including comments on student community at RC in contrast to the ones at MC. More specifically, how they interact with the university community, their peers, friends, and club members, and in the two different locations. Reflections about their social circle then versus now at the regional campus versus now at the main campus, and what strategies, if any, did they use to grow a social circle after the move. If not already mentioned, the technology they use to connect with students before and after the move. We summarize our findings in the following tables. Table 2 summarizes the number and percentage of students choosing each definition broken down by MC and RC participants. Visual inspection indicates that holistic was the most popular definition for RC students, while MC students preferred a definition limited to their own campuses. RC students also seem more likely than MC students to choose their personal network as a definition. The apparent difference in frequency pattern across campus location was confirmed by a significant chi-square test. As we can see in table 2, most of the main campus students chose campus as their choice of definition, and most students at RC chose the holistic as their choice of definition. How did this affect their feelings of community and collective community efficacy scales? We can see that students at the main campus had a slightly better agreement to the sense of community and the collective community efficacy. Both the scales were in Likert form, agreement ratings 1 to 5. The result constructed for the based on the different definitions chosen by peoples showed that students who selected network felt the strongest sense of community and collective community efficacy, but there isn't a significant difference between the holistic and the network definition. Coming to our interview results, keeping in mind we only interviewed students who transferred from an RC to an MC. In response to the interview questions, students shared their transition experiences in general, but also more specifically how their feelings of connection change over the course of the campus transitions. Upon conducting a thematic analysis of our interviews, the 4 major themes emerged. Motivations for moving to MC. It was majorly for better job prospects and opportunities. Traveling to MC and club participation. A lot of these students had traveled to MC before their big transition, and they heavily participated in clubs as means to establish social network. Characterizing community, they define community as a holistic model versus a network or a campus model. Managing connections with student peers, they were more likely to stay in touch with their friends from regional campuses. At the same time, use clubs as platforms to establish a stronger social network. Different participants were also asked how did they expand their network and how did they feel about the move. While there were positive responses like this one, I've had so many networking opportunities here that I don't think any other university can ever live up to it. I especially like the welcoming nature, and it is like we are a family. Goes on to show a strong sense of community as well as a strong sense of identity with the university. But at the same time, there were students who faced issues with the transition. I've always kind of just found my friends by myself. Every campus transition found me in a very different part of my life, so each one was very unique. Goes on to say that they did not feel completely supported by the university structure in their transition and kind of had to establish their social network by themselves from scratch when they moved from a regional campus to the main campus. What are the design implications of the results that we just discussed? We conducted an exploratory study aimed at understanding students' views of community within a multi campus university setting. As indicated by the positive scores of sense of community and collective community efficacy, the students completing the survey seemed quite positive about the student community at my uni. But there's still some suggestions that we'd like to put forward to make the transition for the students who move from RC to MC more seamless. We would suggest that a matching account is taken into place, wherein each student is matched with a mentor or a peer or a buddy. Study groups, overlapping schedules, club membership should be factored in to the matching program. Another suggestion is designing a map information system that has a persistent cues about which campus is being explored and where it fits within the statewide geography. This will give a very holistic approach and a holistic mind map of the university structure. The university might create a set of virtual visit opportunities for RC students, perhaps even hosted by students who have recently moved, for students to feel a stronger sense of connection with the university. Thank you. I'd appreciate any questions that you'd like to ask. You can email me at sqg5699 at the rate psu.edu with all the questions. Thank you.